Lords of the Fallen is a Souls-like RPG with a dark and edgy story where you explore a huge world teeming with monsters and demons and travel between the living world of Axiom and the land of the dead, the Umbral. And this is a really challenging game with some really unique mechanics that you might not have seen before. So I wanted to go over some of the big 5 best tips I can give if you're just getting into this game. So starting with number 1, Umbral Dread. It's really important to understand how the Umbral works and how long you can stay there. So while in the Umbral, there's a system called Umbral Dread. This is a number and a multiplier under the eye in the top right of your screen. The longer you're in the Umbral, the higher this gets, and it impacts the difficulty, the number of monsters, and the amount of experience you gain. So that's the currency you use to level up. So it's very important. So staying in the Umbral for long periods of time is a great way of farming XP. However, once the Umbral Dread builds up to a certain level, it actually gets impossible to stay there. Enemies that will spawn will one-shot you. You get debuffs that stop you being able to use your potions, and it just gets really, really hard. You can increase the time until this chaos happens by upgrading your Umbral Lantern. This kind of gives you dread resistance, letting you stay there longer and survive longer. This can be done at Molhu in the Skyrest. He's like the creepy guy in the top right room. You have to rift over to the Umbral to see and talk to him. But yeah, once you upgrade your flask with the chisel, it'll increase your dread resistance, give you more time in the Umbral. So yeah, it's just good to know this is a great place to farm, but there is a limit when you can't stay there any longer and you just have to get out. So if you're going to farm, maybe stay near a rest point so you could farm all the monsters. When it gets really chaotic, you can get as much as you can, and then when it feels like it's starting to get impossible, you can just jump straight out and take all of your vigor, all of your XP with you. Next up, I need to talk about Umbral Seedlings. So if you've played any Dark Souls game, you know about shortcuts. So you get to a bonfire and the bonfires are quite spread apart. And then as you play through a good chunk of a game, you'll unlock a door and that door will loop back to the bonfire, or you'll drop a ladder. And then you can get back to where you were faster. So you're not so punished. And normally when you get to a boss, there's a shortcut right before the boss so that you can just run back in every time. Now, Lords of the Fallen does have a few shortcuts, but they have a different way of dealing with this. They have a thing called Umbral Seeds. So as you're in the Umbral, you'll notice big areas of flowery ground. And these you can plant a Vestige Seed. So if you're in the Umbral, you'll see them. If you're not, your lantern will glow, letting you know there's one underneath you. And you can place a Vestige Seed here to create a temporary Vestige point, like a save, rest, and level up your character zone, which is really useful. But these seeds are limited. Only so many drop throughout the game and through different mobs. And they can be purchased for 2,500 vigor, your currency to level up, which is a lot, especially in the early game. That's a whole level. And then in the mid game, it's like part of a level, like mid-level some points. So these aren't easy to come across, and you won't have enough to use them all the time, everywhere you want. And once you place one, the old one is removed. So a tip here is just use them when you need them. Between one save point and another, between one rest point and another, there might be like 3-4 flower zones and only one shortcut unlocked. So it can feel really punishing, and you might want to do it at every single one, but I would say just use them when you need them. If you're breezing through a zone and you're finding it quite easy, don't place them. Just keep running back. And then when you get to a zone which is really hard, or you see a flower in front of a boss, that's a time to put them down. But I definitely say be cautious with these, because I just use them all the time. And then I got to zones where I wanted a flower at every single one I could use because it was a really hard zone, and I had to go buy some. So yeah, just be cautious when you use these. They can be purchased at Molhu for 2,500, but yeah, just go easy and just use them when you need them. That's the tip. Next up, the lantern isn't just used for exploration. This is something that needs to be pulled out in combat as well, and it has 2 main uses. One is destroying parasites. If you notice a blue health bar on an enemy, that means they're tethered to a parasite and cannot be killed. Sometimes a parasite can power up 3 or 4 enemies. You either need to use your lamp to find the parasite and then suck it up. This can even be used on bosses. They do have some parasites on boss rooms. And if you're already in the Umbral, you don't have to use your lamp. You can go up to one of these parasites and just hit it with your weapon. And then you can soulflay enemies too. So soulflaying is something I didn't do for the first section of the game, because I completely didn't think it was that good. But it's really important as you progress. So soulflaying can even be used on some bosses, and it will rip the soul out of the enemy and stun them. You can then attack the soul for heavy damage. You only get 1 soulflay charge at the start of the game, so you might be saving it or sparing it, but as you upgrade your lantern at Molhu and Skyrest later on, you unlock additional charges. So it becomes a pretty significant part of the game where you can constantly be soulflaying enemies multiple times in a fight, and just getting this really big stagger damage in. And it can really interrupt the main course of combat. So if there's something that is dealing you a bit of issue, you can just get in there, soulflay it out, and then just get it destroyed. So really useful and a really good part of the game once you start doing it. But yeah, don't be like me and just completely ignore it for the first 10 hours. Okay, next up, Umbral Secrets. A unique part of this game is the ability to see into the Umbral with your lantern, or fully cross over, rift over there. And it's tempting to just constantly be looking for secrets. That's what I did at the start. and the game tells you look out for these moths because they're a sign that there's something there. I would not rely on moths. I would not rely on using your lantern because the lantern is just a bit annoying. It's not got much range. You have to constantly pull it out. It kind of interrupts the gameplay and you're always worrying if you miss something. I would say just jump over to the Umbral. Don't be scared of the Umbral. It's good experience. It's honestly pretty cool. There's a lot of cool things over there. And just jump straight over. There's hidden ladders only accessible in the Umbral, hidden paths to secret treasures, giant like winding zones, things you can pull out and open different doors with your Soulflay. And honestly, just don't rely on the lantern. I would make an effort to just rift over and run through a zone in the Umbral while you're there. Maybe go through the whole zone normally if you're struggling, and then run back in the Umbral. Or just between each save point, just make an effort to just jump over to the Umbral, farm a few souls, have a look around, and grab all the secrets, because there's a lot to miss if you're just using your torch, using your lantern like every now and again. So yeah, that would be my tip. Some of these things like in the air, on the ground, they're over on a path somewhere that you won't even get to normally. So yeah, don't miss them. Use the rift. Don't be scared of the Umbral. Last up, mimics. If you played this game, mimics in this game are just so frustrating. I hate it. They're horrible. Lords of the Fallen has these mimic-like things. If you play Dark Souls, it's a treasure chest. You open the treasure, and it's actually a monster, a mimic. Unlike Dark Souls, where the chest turns into a monster that you can then fight, this just kills you in the most unfair way. Some creature from the Umbral grabs you, pulls you in, and you're just dead. Certain items on the ground will lead to that. So you'll see like a little item, you'll go over, pick it up, and this giant moth will just grab you, and it feels bad. However, you can prevent it and you can stop it. So one way to know is find an item that is mimicked, that is trapped, and then you can use your Soulflay to rip this big ambush moth creature just out of existence. And then you can safely go and pick up the item. To find out if an item is trapped, you can either, die to it, you can accidentally die to it, and then go back, and then Soulflay it, or you can walk up to the item and watch its pattern. So a normal item will have like a straight, calm little flow, a little flow. I'll try and show it on screen. But if it seems really whirly and it sways a lot left to right, it might be a trap. So just try pulling out your lamp and Soulflaying it. Just give it a go. I've just been dying to them. I just can't bother looking at every single one. And then if I die, I just run back and Soulflay it. But yeah, don't be scared of the mimics. But they are so frustrating, man. But yeah, that's how you deal with them. But yeah, that's it. Five big tips for Lords of the Fallen, especially if you're new, just getting into the game. This game is getting very mixed reviews, especially on Steam. It's getting some fire. But yeah, I'm having fun so far. But I agree, there are some really unnecessary, frustrating parts of this game. So I wanted to give 5 tips to hopefully get around it. You don't want to be walking around with your lantern all day. You don't want to be, getting killed by these mimics. I just wanted to make some tips to hopefully make the gameplay experience a little better, because some of these you might get halfway through the game before you realize you can do these things. But yeah, that's it. If you have any other tips for new players, or even tips you've got halfway through the game, let people know down below. Let's share some help. And this is a confusing game. It's pretty complex. So yeah, any tips are greatly appreciated. And let me know, are you enjoying this? Are you enjoying Lords of the Fallen? Is it hit the spot for you? Is it hitting that like Souls-like spot, or are you on the other side of the mixed reviews? Let me know. But that's it for this video. I've got a review for this coming out soon as well, so subscribe if you want to see that. Going to be very weighted on both sides. There's a lot I love about the game, and there's a lot that really get me on this game. So yeah, subscribe if you want to see that. Like the video if it's helped, and that's it for me, and I'll catch you in the next one.